Today I'm going to be making this miniature Christmas cookie making scene that I made for my mom for Christmas. So let's get to it. I started off with some MDF that I cut to size, then printed out the same countertop as my mom has in her kitchen, and used a little bit of glossy Mod Podge to set it. For the tile backsplash, I scaled down and printed out a similar tile design to what my mom has, and I used a photo paper so it has a good shine. I then kind of scored individual lines to separate the tiles and give it a more 3D effect, and just really accentuate those grout lines. You can see the difference that it makes when you compare the two. And again, I just used some matte Mod Podge to lay it down. And here's what the base looked like when it was all done. Now it was time to make some cookies. I first made a polymer clay version of some of my mom's famous Christmas cookies that everyone loves, and then just made a mold using a regular 2-part molding mix material. Once the molds were dry, I used some air dry clay and just started filling them. When the mold is this small, the clay dries pretty fast, to the point where as I was done filling the last mold, the first one I did was dry enough to pop it out and make another one. And once they were all completely dry, I just used some regular acrylic paint and gave them all pretty much the same base color. Once that was all dry, I just went over them with some watered down brown paint just to give some details and that slightly darkened edge from baking. And here's what they look like when they were all done. We have the little stained glass stars, and the mandolins, chocolate peanut butter squares, her famous coconut Christmas trees, the coconut Neapolitan, my personal favorite, Greek honey cookies, the almond cookies, better known as the horseshoe, her loved shortbreads, and of course the rum balls with half a bottle of Croatian rum. I cut out this sparkly red cardstock, and with a little magic it turned into a plate filled with Christmas cookies. Now, since I was making a whole Christmas cookie making scene, I had to make a jam jar for the assembly of the stained glass cookies, so I just filled a little resin and then cut out a label and glued it on. And the lid was also just a piece of paper cut out with a little hard nail polish on top. And of course, the star-shaped cookie with a little bit of jam being spooned on. For the baking sheet, I just cut out some aluminum from a pop can and then just a little parchment paper to glue on top. For the next scene of the shortbreads being made, I cut a little board from some balsa wood and then painted with some stripes and watered down acrylic paint, and then just made the dough out of some more air clay. With a rolling pin, I just used a wood dowel and then some red plastic rubber pieces I found laying around. So here I'm going to be making the kitchen mixer, and I just used some more air dried clay and just started to mold it into the shape of a mixer. This is actually the first thing I made out of everything and what gave me the idea to make this for my mom for Christmas. Once it was all dry, I cleaned it up a bit and just used some more acrylic paint mixed with a few colors just to get that same Tiffany blue KitchenAid mixer my mom has. I glued on a little silver strip for some detail and then sealed it all with some UV light cured nail polish. For the whisk, I bent some craft wire into the shape that I wanted. I did that 3 times and then glued them inside this little silver jewelry piece that I had, and then just popped it on the mixer. It turned out so cute and I was so happy with the results. For the next scene, I wanted some chocolate chip cookies just being prepared, so I scaled down and printed out some flour, sugar, and a chocolate chip wrapper, and then just glued them together. I cut up a makeup sponge and then just shoved it inside the flour and the sugar to make it look like it was full. And then I painfully made this little measuring cup out of the metal around the tea light candle and then put some flour, aka makeup sponge, inside as well. Now I needed a bowl, so of course I pulled out the pottery wheel and threw down some clay. These things are awesome. If you don't have one, you need one in your life. They are super frustrating at first, but it's fun to make some creations out of them. And once it was all dried up, I just painted it up with some acrylic paint and a little clear glaze. A little makeup sponge and some polymer clay chocolate chips to finish it off. I made some oven mitts out of fabric. I just cut 2 pieces out and then glued them together. It was definitely a bitch to turn this inside out, but I patiently did it. Once it was turned out, I took a little foam piece and then glued it on the inside to make it look like they were insulated. And then I made another one and voila, they were done. The back wall was looking a little empty, so I wanted to put a picture up. And again, I just found a picture on Google and scaled it down and then printed out. I cut out a frame with some coffee stir sticks and then glued on a clear piece of plastic onto the front of the picture to make it look like glass. I wanted to pretty up the frame a bit, so I took some of this wide gold craft wire and then cut them to make a double frame on the top. I racked my brain trying to think of what to use to make a light that looked like my mom's kitchen light. And I found this bath bomb mold and then just filled it with some polymer clay, baked it up, shined it up with some UV light cured nail polish. I glued some silver hardware onto the opening of the light. And then I just made this little chain link for the wire to finish it off. I was happy the way this turned out. It looked pretty similar to my mom's light. Now I do have another video on how I hook up the wiring that I will link in the description below. Now it's time to make that popcorn ceiling. I painted the base with acrylic white paint first, and then used up some ground salt mixed with Mod Podge and acrylic paint to get this popcorn ceiling effect. I let the Mod Podge dry, and then I just went over it with some white paint. Once the ceiling was all dry, I glued the light onto the ceiling and then the ceiling onto the wall just using some 2-part epoxy glue. Now for the frame around the box to hide all the wiring, I used some more MDF. And then I just cut up some glossy white vinyl to size and wrapped the MDF. I cut up and painted some popsicle sticks to frame around the box, and then I had this plexiglass that was lying around that I cut to size. And I couldn't be happier on how it turned out. It's so cute and it looks pretty much like my mom's kitchen. I hid the battery in the bottom with a little bit of Velcro tape so it was easy to access. And here is my mom opening up her Christmas present, minus her face, because she would kill me.
Oh, you made this? Oh, that is so beautiful. Thank you, honey.
Please like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the bell to get notified for my upcoming videos. Thanks for watching!